Today we'll be discussing the institutions and structures of the Russian state under the Russian Federation for AP Comparative Government in 2014. The Russian Federation is a mixed or semi-presidential system. It has separation of powers similar to the structure of the United States and similar to that of France, but in practice those checks and balances break down. We're going to take a look at the different structures now and see how they relate to each other. First, we have the presidency, or the executive branch. The presidency was recently changed from a 4-year term into a 6-year term by President Putin, starting with his current term that started in 2012. So he theoretically will be president from 2012 through 2018. The election system is a runoff or French system. Any candidate who gets 1 million signatures can be on the ballot, and if no candidate gets an absolute majority of the vote in the first round, then there is a second election held where the top two vote getters in the previous election run again against each other. The president in the Russian system has vast powers. He has many more powers than other branches of government, including a lot of appointment powers and presidential decree powers. The president can rule through decree, which has the power of law, even more extensive than the similar power that the President of the United States has, called executive orders. In addition, as a semi-presidential system or a hybrid system, there's also, in fact, a prime minister. The prime minister in the Russian system is really the second in charge, and here's where it's interesting. The president actually appoints the prime minister who heads the legislature. So the legislature, the Duma, the State Duma, cannot choose its own leader directly. It does have the opportunity to vote to approve. Theoretically, if they reject the prime minister, he could be nominated a second time. This happened once under President Yeltsin, where the first attempt was not approved, so the name was submitted for a prime minister job. If the name is rejected 3 times, the president has the power to dissolve the Duma and call for new elections, which is certainly a vast power for a president to wield. In Russia's history, that has not actually happened yet. Yeltsin had the opportunity to do that, but he chose not to nominate the same person a 3rd time for fear that in a new election his party might have lost seats. Next, we move on to the State Duma. This is your lower house. It is your bigger legislature with 450 seats. And originally, it was half proportional, half single member districts, and then has been shifted to all proportional. As is noted here, a shift to proportional election system gives the heads of the party more power to choose the legislators, and then hence more power to enforce party discipline in the party or in the legislature itself. As a result, since the United Russia Party has a majority and the United Russia Party is controlled by none other than President Putin, the State Duma basically is controlled by Vladimir Putin, another vestige of his continued ongoing power. Interestingly, they do have the power of impeachment, but impeachment is difficult and rather unlikely. Russia features a bicameral legislature. The other half of the legislature is the Federation Council. It's an upper house, similar in structure to the United States Senate as it was created originally under the Constitution before the 17th Amendment. That is, citizens of the districts, the Federation territories, do not directly elect members to the Federation Council. There's 2 for each Federation district. One is appointed by the governor of that legislature. I'm sorry, one is appointed by the governor of that republic or territory, and another is appointed by the legislature of that republic or territory. And this in itself, because it is not independent, because positions are appointed, does little more than delay legislation. Moving on to the judiciary, under the Soviet Union, there was no judicial independence. Show trials where the person was basically guilty, presumed guilty, and forced to confess to crimes that were totally manufactured were common. Things have improved a little bit under the Russian system today. There is a Supreme Court that deals as a court of last appeal. There is a constitutional court that resolves constitutional issues, but the courts are not appointed. I'm sorry, they're not independent in the way you would see in the United States. And as a result, the courts have not played a major role in the legal system, in the system of government right now. They do not have independent judicial review. They do not really have the power to stop anything that's happening right now. Generally speaking, part of the other problem with judges in Russia is due to years and years of economic crisis. You have wide-scale bribery and corruption throughout all levels of government, and so bribing judges is not uncommon. Progress has been made, but it's still bribery is still common. And our last point here today is to talk about political parties. Generally speaking, when you think of the civic culture of the Russian Federation, the average Russian is not has only been living in a democratic system for a short period of time, only about the last 20 years, and therefore the whole concept of election and parties is a kind of a new concept. Many people are not very loyal to their parties. Only 22% consider themselves as belonging to a party. As a result, elections tend to have dramatic changes in parties because people do not closely affiliate themselves with one party or another. The most recent election in the State Duma resulted in the United Russia Party maintaining its dominance, although it slipped from 70% down to just enough to control the legislature. You have a multi-party system, not a two-party system like the United States, and so you have three other parties besides United Russia. United Russia is basically a centrist government party. Its party platform is not politically ideological left, it's not ideologically right, it's simply a good government party. It stands for things like reforming education, reforming the government, reforming services, but it doesn't really have an ideology other than whatever President Putin says is good. The Communist Party of Russia is a holdover from the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, and 19% of Russians, interestingly, think that going back to the old system of communism would be the best solution. So while they haven't elected anyone to the presidency, the Communist Party is the second largest political party, holding approximately 1/5 of the electorate. A Just Russia Party was recently created a few years ago. It's a moderate left of center party. And then last but not least, you have the Liberal Democratic Party of Russia, which is ironically neither liberal nor democratic. It's actually the political place for anti-Semitism and hyper-nationalism without communist economic policies. So Liberal Democratic Party is really a pro-Russia hyper-nationalist party without the communist part. And they managed to hold on to about 12% of the electorate in this last election. Where we go in the future is anyone's guess. You have elections in the State Duma once every 4 years. So another year and a half or so, another we should see another election. We'll see how if United Russia is able to hold on to its continued control for all of the 21st century.